The suspected shooter in the July 4th parade shooting now faces 7 first-degree murder charges. Joining us now is Lake County State's Attorney Eric Rinehart. Sir, we appreciate your time tonight. I hope you can hear us now because I've been looking forward to talking to you. I'd like to begin with just some clarification on this police report that was filed in 2019 because it's a major sticking point for us and for people at home. Highland Park police seem concerned enough to file this clear and present danger process information, send it along to Illinois State Police. To which they said upon further review, there was insufficient information for a clear and present danger determination. We now know what happened as a result. He was able in December to get approved for a FOID card and purchase a firearm. I don't understand this. With Illinois' laws and the red flags in place, what was missed?
Well, first of all, I want to continue to express my condolences to the families of those who've lost loved ones in this devastating attack. We are searching for justice, and we will get justice for every victim. And I think part of our conversation tonight has to be about how we make sure there are never future victims. The clear and present danger determination was sent in by the Highland Park Police Department to the Illinois State Police. There's 2 types of red flags here. There's the application process for what in Illinois is called the FOID, the Fire Owner ID card. The Illinois State Police monitor those applications. There's also a red flag law through our court system, which came in through 2019. That is a way for a judge to order that people no longer possess firearms and that they not be able to buy firearms. The Illinois State Police made the determination because there wasn't an arrest, because there weren't firearms in the house at that time, that the FOID that it wasn't going to be in their computer records. I'd refer you to Illinois State Police internal process. That was certainly never a record that hits a prosecutor's office. It didn't hit our office. It wouldn't typically hit our office. So when we say red flags, and I've been a big proponent in the last few days of increasing education for those red flag laws, it's a process where family members and law enforcement can go to court and take away weapons and also prevent the purchase of them. In this case, we've been talking about that application process to get your FOID in the first place.
Well, and we can all agree there was one shooter here, but did the system fail that this wasn't picked up, that somehow the paperwork didn't make it to the place that it was supposed to help in the prevention process?
Look, I think we have to make sure there isn't a single point of failure. I don't think this individual should have been able to purchase an assault weapon. I think we should have an assault weapon ban in Illinois and in the United States. We put a lot of pressure on computer systems and people to catch these types of things. And we should, but we could also just ban assault weapons, which is what I believe in. So we have to make sure that all of our systems are working. We have to make sure that everything is where it should be, that there's connectivity with all of our systems. I think those reports could be sent to prosecutors' offices as just another set of eyes, potentially on an individual. But at the end of the day, 21-year-olds and older no one should be able to purchase these types of weapons.
Let's talk a little bit more, Mr. Rinehart, about accountability here. I spoke with the attorney who is now representing the parents of Bobby Crimo III, and I talked about what they knew and when they knew it, and if they were concerned leading up to this attack. What he told me about, one, the incident on September was something that he was skeptical of, police's account. Let's listen to what he told me last night, and I'd like to get your thoughts.
Well, that's assuming that the police account of the events is accurate, and pardon my skepticism, but I've been a defense lawyer a long time. Look, the police returned those knives to them 2 weeks after they took the knives. So the police couldn't have been too alarmed by that incident.
There seems to be quite a bit of finger pointing going on. Help me read between the lines on how you prosecute a case with some of the warning signs that we had.
We have to look at who has the most information and at what time. We also know that there are these online videos that are incredibly disturbing. We know that information may have been. I don't know whether the parents knew that. We can find out. We're investigating every aspect of this and the planning that went into it, which occurred over some period of time. family members can file these red flag petitions, what are called in Illinois the firearm restraining order, the FRO. Again, the firearm restraining order. We have information about it on my Facebook page, on the state's attorney's Facebook page. Family members can file those, and we can calibrate our safety within a community and within individuals to make sure the dangerous individuals don't have access to firearms. The other way to make sure that people don't have access to firearms is to ban assault weapons, because I think that's another way to do it. We should have several ways to protect the community, not single ones. In terms of finger pointing, we're looking at all parts of this case in terms of who knew what when, and we are evaluating what people knew about the risk that this defendant was going to hurt people. It is a devastating situation for the community. I live in Highland Park. We are all coming together. There's great strength here, but there's great sorrow. And part of my job now is to fight for every victim and to fight for justice for every victim. And that's why we'll be bringing more charges.
I want to talk to you about the suspect in just a moment, but before we move on from this, are you considering charges against the parents at this time? Does the father bear any legal responsibility for sponsoring that application?
We are still going over a mountain of evidence in this case, the digital footprints, the social media information. We are looking at all aspects of this to see who knew what when and who knowingly assisted. And then that's all I can really say about it.
How about other warning signs and red flags? For instance, the mural on the side of the family's home, it's an image of a person in black with a smiley face head holding what appears to be an assault-style rifle. Is that something that you would bring forth as evidence, as a concerning piece of this investigation?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, that's something we're looking at. That image is something we're looking at. On who knew what when and what their level of awareness was of the risk.
Are the parents cooperating right now with the investigation and with your prior investigation?
Your audio is in and out a little bit. I don't want to get into levels of cooperation of any of the witnesses in the case.
All right. Mr. Rinehart, let's talk a little bit about the suspect. We learned today that he was seriously contemplating a second attack in Wisconsin. What more can you share about his plans? Are you there, Mr. Rinehart? And unfortunately, it seems as though we may be losing the connection. I'm going to try one more time. Can you hear me? All right. That is Eric Rinehart, the Lake County State Attorney, joining us tonight. We will continue to follow this case very closely and get the questions that so many of us want answered, and most importantly, focus on the victims who lost lives and their families left to pick up the pieces in Highland Park, Illinois. Our condolences to all of those, including the state attorney who lives in Highland Park. Thank you for watching. Go to newsnationnow.com to find News Nation on your television provider. And don't forget to click the red subscribe button below to get more of News Nation's fact-driven, unbiased coverage.